Well, good morning. It's great to be back in Tampa. I've got Kevin Guthrie, Division of Emergency Management Executive Director, with me. We also have the Attorney General, Ashley Moody. We're here at TECO Energy in Tampa. They're staging a lot of linemen for the upcoming storm, and we continue to have thousands of linemen pouring into the state. They're being amassed, and then obviously once the storm passes, they will go and work on power restoration. It is anticipated that there is going to be power outages, so folks have an opportunity to plan for that now. You still have time to make the preparations and put your plan in place today, but that time is running out. This storm, I think, as you know, is basically in the area of Cuba and the Yucatan Peninsula. It's moving past that, and then it's going to have pretty much a clear runway in the Gulf of Mexico. We, of course, began preparing over the weekend. On Monday, I signed an executive order. We now have 61 of Florida's 67 counties that are in a state of emergency, and it's been able to help surge resources and help with preparations there. We did get a partial approval of our pre-landfall emergency declaration from FEMA, but we didn't get approved for what we think we need to get approved for, so we're going to go back and try to get a more robust approval there. We are going to have a significant impact from this storm. It's a tropical storm now. It is going to become a hurricane. The models vary on how intense, but there's clearly a pathway for this to rapidly intensify prior to making landfall. You'll see these cones that get produced by the National Hurricane Center. You see these spaghetti models that get put out that I see online, and that's fine, and you should look at that, but just understand this is a very big storm. You're going to have impacts that are far outside of what a spaghetti model would have or what a cone would have. And so here in the Tampa Bay area, none of those spaghetti models or cones necessarily have the eye of the storm hitting Tampa Bay, but even if it's 100 or 200 miles off the coast, you are going to see impacts with storm surge. You're going to see impacts with flooding, and so just be prepared for that. There have been local communities, counties that have issued evacuation orders in a number of Florida counties. You still have time to be able to do that, and so I would heed those warnings. You can hide from the wind, and there will be significant wind on this storm, but you got to run from the water if you do have a major surge, and you stay behind in that, especially if you're in one of these low-lying areas, that is potentially hazardous. You do not have to evacuate so that you evacuate far enough to not have any impact of the storm. If you get to higher ground and get in a safe structure like the shelters that have been opened, I know in Hillsborough County and in other parts of the state, that will be sufficient. Maybe you have friends that are in higher ground. Maybe you have a hotel that you want to go to. You don't have to drive hundreds of miles, but if you are told to evacuate and you're in those low-lying areas, just know that there is the potential to have some significant storm surge. The track currently has the eye of the storm making landfall in Florida sometime Thursday evening in northern Florida. Right now it's in that Wakulla, Franklin County area, would potentially proceed into the city of Tallahassee. Now, these things can wobble one way or another, but it is somewhat remarkable when I looked at this morning's runs. Most of those models are pretty much in agreement about the path of this storm. Doesn't mean that they're 100% right, but normally you'll have kind of an average of them, but you'll have some that may be further east, some that may be further west. Most of them are pretty close together now, so we do anticipate direct impact somewhere in the northern part of Florida, most likely in the Tallahassee region, but it could also toggle east and end up closer to the heart of the Big Bend, where we saw with Debbie and where we saw with Hurricane Idalia. But again, you're going to have impacts of this storm inland in the state of Florida, really all across the Florida peninsula. And even though southeast Florida was not in our 61 counties, the coastal southeast part of Florida, they are probably going to end up with tropical storm force winds as well. So it's a big, big storm, has the potential to have a lot of impacts. So again, you still have time to prepare. Make sure that you're executing your plan. Make sure you have the essentials that you need. We're proud to be here at TECO. I know that Floridians have come to really appreciate seeing those trucks coming into the state with the linemen prior to hurricanes, and they love the fact that the storm passes and you have immediately people going out to try to get the power back on as quickly as possible. That's not the way it works in every state in this country, mind you. I think people have seen recent examples where that hasn't been the case at all. So it's great to have that. I know TECO's proactive. I know our other companies. I've been speaking with the major companies. I've been speaking with the electrical co-ops, the municipal cooperatives, you name it. They're all hands on deck. And that may not have been true years in the past, but now they're doing this. We have mutual aid from the state that Kevin Guthrie coordinates. And again, we want to get people back on their feet very quickly. Having said that, you will likely lose power. Many people will lose power depending on where you are in the state. So just be prepared for that. Understand that that's something that could happen and have a plan in place so you're able to weather that power outage however long it is. And we've been fortunate. If you look at some of our most recent storms, you've had significant outages in terms of the number of customers, but the length in which they were out has been historically low in terms of comparison to other storms in other states. So we want to keep doing that. The state's committed to helping marshal resources, but just be prepared for losing power. You also need to know your evacuation zone. If you're told to evacuate, know what zone you're in so that you can get to safety. If you have an issue or a question about whether where you live is currently under an evacuation order, you can go to floridadisaster.org/evacuation orders, and that will list all the counties that have issued those orders. And so I know you've seen evacuations in some of the barrier islands up the west coast of Florida. Some of the counties like Wakulla and Franklin have done broader evacuation orders. All of that will be on the website. And again, you don't have to get in your car and drive 350 miles away. You can evacuate safely to higher ground. There's shelters, there's hotels, friends' houses, family. All that is fine. And especially in Florida, the structures that would be used for sheltering are going to be hurricane proof. Low-lying areas, of course, can increase a community's flood risk. You can learn if the dwelling's at risk by visiting FEMA's map service at msc.fema.gov. If you have questions about shelters, you can go to floridadisaster.org/shelters so that you can see what is available in your area. Now, every county in Florida is required to have at least one pet-friendly shelter. So here in Hillsborough, maybe not everyone is pet-friendly. I don't know, maybe they are, but you will absolutely have one, at least one, that is pet-friendly. And please don't leave your pets behind, especially if you're in one of the areas that's more low-lying where you can have significant damage. You don't want to leave a dog behind not knowing when you're going to be able to get back and be able to be there. So please bring your pets. When we're under a state of emergency, the hotels allow pets to go in to the hotels, even some hotels that are not normally pet friendly. So make sure you're taking care of your pets. Kevin and his team at my direction have marshaled a significant number of resources. They are filling requests from the counties for supplies on everything from vehicles to tarps to generators, as well as additional personnel. As I mentioned, we have thousands of additional linemen pouring into the state. I think we got up to 18,000 yesterday. That number will continue to increase throughout today. We also have Starlink internet that can be deployed as needed for areas that have internet knocked out. And we have, as I mentioned yesterday at the briefing, flood protection devices that can go and protect a number of things, but particularly a utility substation. We did do that during Debbie. It was effective. We have 150,000 linear feet of flood protection devices that are in the process of being deployed. But local communities that want that, ask Kevin, ask the Florida Division of Emergency Management. We want to be helpful with that. Army Corps has some of those as well, but we know we have them and we want to be helpful. We also have Florida National Guard standing by with our soldiers. Florida Department of Transportation has lifted weight restrictions and is allowing bypass of way stations for emergency response vehicles. including utility vehicles that are staging for rapid response. Kevin has activated our fuel contracts, so we've got many tankers of fuel in addition to the norm coming in. You know, people have been waiting in line for some of the gas. I know up in Tallahassee, we saw that yesterday. I don't think any of the stations ran out that we know, but we've been working to make sure that all those are topped off. So that'll continue to go, and we're going to continue to monitor and respond to the storm with all of our different state agencies. After yesterday afternoon, there are 12 healthcare facilities ranging from hospitals to nursing homes that are reporting that they are evacuating, and you may see more healthcare facilities make that call in the ensuing hours. But obviously today is kind of the time where you would need to do that. So we want to make sure that everybody is safe. Just listen to the information. We try to provide information, and then folks can make the decisions that's best for them and their family. I don't believe in trying to scare everybody and trying to just say the only thing that could happen is worst case. We've said there's a range of possibilities for this storm. Some models have it as a Category 1, some has it as a Category 4. There is a runway for this to rapidly intensify. That's just a fact. You're going to have impacts far beyond the eye of the storm. That's just a fact. So we've been, I think, very thorough about putting out the information as we have it. There is still uncertainty about the intensity of it. It does have the potential to be a major hurricane, and even above what Idalia was, which was close to a Category 4 last year. It was a strong Category 3. This does have the potential to exceed that. Again, not guaranteed to, but it has the potential to. So make sure you're making the best decisions for yourself and your family. We stand by to be able to respond as soon as the storm hits. I know people are going to be happy to see the linemen that are going to be out there working. I want to thank all the linemen, first of all, our Florida linemen, for what you do. You get appreciated more during the hurricanes than in the normal kind of course of life. But the reality is so much of our lives now depend on having the lights on and having the power flowing freely. That gets interrupted sometimes on these hurricanes. And so we've got a lot of folks in Florida that do a great job for us. And we're going to have a lot of folks in from out of state who are going to be on target and who are going to be helping to restore power as soon as the storm ends. Of course, we've got the full phalanx of agencies and assets that are standing by for search and rescue should that be needed. I will say the last couple storms, the last 2 years, 23 and this year, we have not needed as many as we've had in the past. And I think part of that is some of the folks in vulnerable areas evacuated. So we'll see what's necessary. Hopefully there won't be a big need, but we have all the agencies and all the assets on standby, everything from high water vehicles to riverine assets to rotary wing aircraft. It's all there and will be deployed as needed. So I want to thank everybody for taking it seriously. I want to thank everybody who's been involved in the preparations for what will become Hurricane Helene. And I want to thank the folks here at TECO for hosting us here today. I always talk, I talk to, the CEO, Archie, and I say, man, we always talk when there's a storm. Like maybe sometimes just got to figure out and talk, like go to a high school football game or do something instead of always being about storms. But nevertheless, we're very proud that so many people across the private sector, across various areas of government, mobilize very quickly when these storms are on the horizon in the state of Florida. So thanks for everyone who's been involved. And with that, I'll turn it over to Kevin Guthrie.